My mother always told me that success was like an iceberg. What people see is just the tip, while the real work lies hidden beneath the surface. I never truly understood what she meant until I became that iceberg myself. I'm Emma Chen, and this is the story of how I went from being the embarrassing waitress in my husband's family to watching their perfectly crafted world crumble in a single evening. Growing up in a modest apartment above my parents' small restaurant in San Francisco's Chinatown, I learned the value of hard work before I could even reach the kitchen counter. By age 8, I was folding napkins and greeting customers. By 12, I was managing the books better than my father. "Emma, come help me with these calculations," my father would call out, his reading glasses perched precariously on his nose. I'd rush over, excited to help. "The profit margin is too low, bah. If we adjust the menu prices by just 10%, we could." He'd laugh, ruffling my hair. "My little business genius, you'll go far, Emma." Those early years taught me everything about business, people, and the power of perception. While other kids played with toys, I played with spreadsheets and business models. My parents worked 18-hour days to put me through college, and I was determined to make their sacrifice count. At Stanford, I developed an AI-driven financial analysis system that caught the attention of major investment firms. By 25, I had transformed that system into FinTech Solutions, one of the fastest-growing financial technology companies in Silicon Valley, but I kept my success quiet, preferring to work behind the scenes while letting others be the face of the company. Then I met Michael. It was at a small coffee shop near my old neighborhood. I was in my usual weekend attire, jeans, a simple sweater, and worn sneakers, working on my laptop when he quite literally crashed into my table. "Oh God, I'm so sorry," he exclaimed, helping me save my laptop from his spilled coffee. I was texting and walking, terrible habit, I know. I looked up to see warm brown eyes and an apologetic smile that made my heart skip a beat. "No harm done," I said, helping him mop up the spill. "I'm Emma." "Michael, please let me buy you another coffee to make up for nearly drowning your laptop." One coffee turned into dinner, which turned into more dinners. Michael was different from the tech bros and finance guys I usually encountered. He was a high school history teacher who spoke passionately about making education accessible to underprivileged students. He didn't care about stock prices or market trends. He cared about people. When he proposed 6 months later, I said yes without hesitation. That's when I met his family and everything changed. The Blackwoods were old money, the kind that filled their conversations with casual mentions of summer homes and yacht clubs. Michael's sister, Victoria, was particularly proud of her position as marketing director at Preston & Shaw, one of the largest investment firms in the city. From the moment we met at their family estate, Victoria made her feelings clear. "So, Emma," she said during our first dinner together, swirling her wine glass with practiced elegance, "Michael mentions you work in the service industry." I could have corrected her, could have mentioned that I owned a company worth billions, but something held me back. Maybe it was the way she said service industry, like it was a contagious disease, or maybe it was simple curiosity about how people behave when they think they have the upper hand. "I help run a family business," I said simply. "Oh, the little Chinese restaurant?" Victoria's perfectly manicured hand flew to her chest in fake concern. "How quaint. Although I suppose someone has to do those jobs." Michael shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. His mother, Eleanor, jumped in with fake cheerfulness. "Well, not everyone can have Victoria's success. She just closed a major marketing campaign for Preston & Shaw." The CEO himself praised her work. I had to bite back a smile at that. Preston & Shaw was one of the many companies that licensed my financial analysis software. In fact, they were in the process of negotiating a larger contract with my firm. "That's impressive," I said sincerely. Victoria preened. The next few months established a pattern. Every family gathering became an opportunity for Victoria to showcase her superiority and remind everyone of my unfortunate background. Michael would squeeze my hand under the table but never openly defended me. "They're just set in their ways," he'd say later. "Give them time." Then came the announcement. Victoria was organizing a grand party at the Blackwood estate to celebrate her promotion to senior marketing director. The guest list included Preston & Shaw's executive team and several major clients. "Of course, Emma," Victoria said during the planning dinner, her smile sharp as a knife. "We'll need extra help with service." Since you have experience waiting tables, would you mind helping out? The professional staff could use someone to direct them. Eleanor clapped her hands. What a wonderful idea. Emma knows all about running a restaurant. It's perfect. I met Victoria's smug gaze across the table. Of course, I said calmly. I'd be happy to help. Later that night, Michael tried to apologize. You don't have to do this. We can tell them you're not feeling well. No, I said, a plan already forming in my mind. I want to help. After all, it's a big night for Victoria. Everything should be perfect. What they didn't know was that I had received an interesting email that morning. Preston and Shaw's CEO, James Preston himself, wanted to meet the mysterious founder of FinTech Solutions to discuss a potential merger. He would be attending Victoria's party. The pieces were falling into place, and for the first time since meeting the Blackwoods, I felt a genuine smile spread across my face. Victoria had no idea that her perfect party was about to become the stage for something far more interesting than her promotion celebration. Sometimes, I reflected, the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about revealing the truth in the most spectacular way possible. And I had a feeling this party was going to be very spectacular indeed. The day of Victoria's party arrived with all the subtlety of a Broadway production. The Blackwood estate had been transformed into what Eleanor kept calling a tasteful display of success. To me, it looked more like a desperate attempt to impress. Crystal chandeliers had been brought in specially for the evening. Ice sculptures dotted the garden. A string quartet played in the corner. The irony wasn't lost on me that the party's budget probably exceeded Victoria's annual salary. Emma, Victoria's sharp voice cut through my observations. She was already dressed in a designer gown that probably cost more than my parents' first restaurant. The catering staff is waiting in the kitchen. Do try to keep them organized. And please, she looked pointedly at my simple black dress, stay in the background. This is an important night for me. I nodded demurely. Of course, Victoria, I'll make sure everything runs smoothly. Michael caught my arm as I headed toward the kitchen. You don't have to do this, he whispered. We can leave right now. I touched his cheek gently. Don't worry. Everything will work out exactly as it should. In the kitchen, I found the catering team looking harried. Victoria had apparently been through earlier, making multiple last-minute demands. Mrs. Chen, a young server approached me nervously. Ms. Blackwood wants the champagne served at precisely 8:15 for her speech, but she also wants continuous tray service, and we're short-staffed. I smiled reassuringly. Let me help. I have some experience with this. For the next hour, I worked alongside the catering team, expertly managing the flow of service while keeping an eye on the arriving guests. Victoria fluttered around the room, drinking champagne and laughing too loudly at her colleagues' jokes. Did you see Emma? I overheard her telling a group of guests. My brother's wife. She's helping the servers. It's really where she's most comfortable, poor thing. Some people just aren't meant for our world. Eleanor joined in. We tried to include her, of course. It's what family does. But there's only so much one can do with limited resources. I continued serving drinks, watching as more Preston and Shaw executives arrived. James Preston himself was expected at 8:00 p.m., just before Victoria's big speech. At 7:55, my phone buzzed. A text from my CFO. Everything's ready. Documents signed. You're good to go. I smiled. Perfect timing. Victoria was getting increasingly tipsy, her voice carrying across the room. You know, she told a group of her colleagues when Michael first brought her home. I thought surely he was joking. I mean, a waitress. But Mother says we must be charitable. Speaking of charity, Eleanor added, we're thinking of offering to help them with a down payment on a small condo. Nothing too close to our neighborhood, of course, but somewhere suitable. Just then, a ripple of excitement moved through the crowd. James Preston had arrived. Victoria practically sprinted to the door, champagne sloshing in her glass. Mr. Preston, we're so honored you could make it. James Preston was an imposing figure in his perfectly tailored suit. His eyes scanned the room and landed on me. For a moment, confusion crossed his face. Victoria, misinterpreting his look, rushed to explain. Oh, don't mind her. That's just my brother's wife helping with service. Now, let me show you the amazing marketing presentation I've prepared. Actually, James interrupted, still looking at me. Isn't that? I handed my serving tray to a nearby waiter and walked over. Victoria's face twisted in embarrassment. Emma, please, Mr. Preston doesn't need a drink right now. Go back to the kitchen where you belong. Hello, James, I said calmly. Thank you for coming tonight. The color drained from Victoria's face as James broke into a broad smile. Mrs. Chen, I didn't expect to find you serving drinks at your own party. My own? Victoria's voice had risen an octave. Well, yes, James continued. Given that FinTech Solutions just acquired controlling interest in Preston and Shaw, I assumed this party was to announce the merger. He turned to me. Unless you wanted to keep that quiet for now. The room had gone completely silent. Even the string quartet had stopped playing. Victoria's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. I don't understand, she stammered. Emma's a waitress. She runs a small Chinese restaurant. A restaurant? James laughed. Mrs. Chen is the founder and CEO of FinTech Solutions. She just became my boss, and effectively yours too. He turned back to me. Those algorithmic improvements you suggested for our trading platform are brilliant, by the way. Eleanor had grabbed onto a nearby chair for support. This must be a mistake. Emma's not. She couldn't be. Oh, but I am, I said softly, but in the silent room, every word carried. FinTech Solutions has been my company from the beginning. And as of 10 minutes ago, we own 51% of Preston and Shaw. I turned to Victoria, including the marketing department. Victoria's face had turned an interesting shade of green. But all those times you treated me like a servant. I finished for her, made comments about my background, suggested I wasn't good enough for your family. I smiled. I remembered every single one. Michael had pushed his way through the crowd. Emma, why didn't you tell me? Would it have made a difference? I asked quietly. Would you have stood up to your family if you knew I was wealthy? Because you never stood up for me when you thought I wasn't. The weight of those words hung in the air. Michael stepped back, his face a mask of shame. James cleared his throat. Well, since we're all here, shall we make the announcement official? Preston and Shaw's new direction under FinTech Solutions leadership. Of course, I agreed. Victoria, I believe you had a speech prepared about the company's future. Would you like to deliver it, or shall I? Victoria swayed slightly, then turned and ran from the room, Eleanor hurrying after her. I took a champagne glass from a nearby tray and clinked it gently. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, please. The aftermath of my announcement rippled through the Blackwood family like a tidal wave. As I stood at the podium outlining FinTech Solutions' vision for Preston and Shaw's future, I could see various family members processing their new reality in different ways. Michael had retreated to a corner, looking shell-shocked. Eleanor was nowhere to be seen, presumably having followed Victoria. Mr. Blackwood, who had been unusually quiet throughout my time in the family, stood by the bar with an empty glass, looking thoughtful. After the formal announcement, James Preston pulled me aside. That was quite a dramatic reveal, he said, his eyes twinkling. Though I must admit, I'm curious why you let them believe you were a waitress for so long. I sipped my champagne. Sometimes people show you who they really are when they think you're beneath them. He nodded sagely. Well, their loss is our gain. I look forward to working with you, properly this time. As the party began to wind down, Victoria reappeared, her makeup hastily fixed, but her composure clearly fragile. She marched straight toward me. You humiliated me, she hissed, in front of everyone who matters in my professional life. No, Victoria, I replied calmly. You humiliated yourself. I simply allowed you to do it in front of witnesses. I'll resign. I won't work for you. That's your choice. But before you make it, you should know that every major firm in the city has already heard about tonight's events. Your reputation for looking down on service workers while unknowingly insulting your CEO won't help your job search. She deflated slightly, reality setting in. What do you want from me? I want you to learn from this. Starting Monday, you'll be working with our community outreach program. We're partnering with several local restaurants and small businesses to provide financial technology support. You'll be reporting directly to my mother. Your mother? Victoria looked confused. Yes, she still runs the family restaurant by choice, not necessity. She'll be overseeing our small business initiative. I think you'll learn a lot about real business acumen from her. Victoria opened her mouth to protest, then closed it again. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked uncertain. Eleanor approached next, her usual perfectly composed facade cracking. Emma, surely we can discuss this privately. We're family after all. Family? I turned to face her. For 3 years, you've treated me like an embarrassment. You excluded me from family photos, seated me with the staff at gatherings, and made countless comments about my unfortunate background. When exactly did you consider me family? We didn't know that I was wealthy, and that's the point, isn't it? You thought I was poor, so I wasn't good enough. Now that you know I'm rich, suddenly you want to talk. Mr. Blackwood stepped forward, surprising everyone. She's right, Eleanor. We've behaved abominably. He turned to me. I've sat back and watched this family's values deteriorate into something I don't recognize. Perhaps this wake-up call was overdue. Finally, Michael approached. The room had cleared out, leaving just the family. Why didn't you tell me? He asked quietly. I wanted to, so many times. But each time you stayed silent while your family belittled me, I realized something. If you couldn't respect me as a waitress, you didn't deserve to know me as a CEO. I love you, he said desperately. Love without respect isn't enough, Michael. Every time you let your family treat me as less than human, you showed me exactly what our marriage was worth to you. I can change, now that I know. Now that you know I'm wealthy. That's not change, Michael. That's just adjusting your behavior to suit your interests. I slipped off my wedding ring and placed it on the table between us. I filed for divorce last week. You'll be hearing from my lawyers. Emma, please. I have a meeting with the Preston and Shaw board tomorrow morning. Victoria, I expect you at the restaurant at 9 a.m. Monday. My mother doesn't tolerate tardiness. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Eleanor, the estate looks lovely, but you might want to enjoy it while you can. The bank just approved my bid to buy it. I think it'll make a wonderful location for our new charitable foundation, providing education and opportunities for service industry workers. The look on their faces was priceless, but I didn't stay to savor it. As I walked out into the cool night air, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Coming to the restaurant for late dinner? Your father made your favorite. I smiled, typing back a quick yes. 20 minutes later, I sat in the familiar warmth of my parents' restaurant, eating dumplings and telling them about the evening's events. Ah yeah, my mother said, shaking her head. Such drama. But good. Some people need to learn respect the hard way. My father nodded sagely. Success without humility is like a tree without roots. It topples in the first strong wind. As I helped them close up for the night, yes, the CEO of FinTech Solutions still helps wash dishes. I reflected on the journey that brought me here. The little girl who once counted coins at this very counter now counted her wealth in billions. But the most valuable lessons I'd learned weren't about money at all. They were about respect, integrity, and the courage to stand up for your worth. 6 months later, Victoria had transformed under my mother's mentorship, discovering a genuine passion for helping small businesses succeed. The Blackwood estate had become the Chen Foundation for Educational Opportunity, offering programs for underprivileged students and service industry workers looking to advance their careers. Michael sent occasional emails, but I never responded. Some bridges, once burned, should stay crossed. As for me, I finally stepped into the public eye as FinTech Solutions CEO, but I never stopped helping at my parents' restaurant on weekends. It keeps me grounded, reminds me of where I came from. Sometimes customers do a double take when they realize their soup is being served by a billionaire CEO. I just smile and ask if they need extra napkins. After all, success is like an iceberg. What people see is just the tip. The real substance, the true measure of a person's worth, lies in how they treat others, especially when they think nobody important is watching. And that's a lesson the Blackwoods learned the hard way.